All right, rock and roll. Welcome one, welcome all. Friend and foe, sinner and saint. You are at the epicenter of the cool world. Yeah, not really me. It's the people who subscribe to this. They're the cool ones. You want to be cool? You want to be cool on the Scorched Earth podcast? You hit that like and subscribe. I don't know. Are you really cool enough to do it? I don't know. Let's see. Dare you? All right. How you doing? Welcome to the podcast. It's Sunday, April 13th. Sleepy Sunday. We're going to find out what happens on the news shows, and we're going to find out what happens. I had a great day. We call it the Best Coast. And I went to the Bernie rally. Hopefully you saw some of the shorts. Fantastic. I will say that I love Los Angeles. Okay, I'm not Randy Newman. I love Los Angeles. But one of the best friends I've ever had is Brother Bill. And he always tells me, he goes, why don't you move down there? Why don't you move to Santa Monica? You know, because I talk about how much I like it, and I do like visiting. I don't want to live there, though. I'm not sure I really do. I mean, there's something cool about living in a high rise, you know, dealing with that stuff. But, you know, I went down to LA. It's the first time I've went there in probably 6 months, actually into the epicenter that is LA. And when you go into a large metropolitan area, New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, there's a fragrance that comes, and the fragrance is weed and urine, okay? Because they don't have public bathrooms for all the people, unfortunately, who are homeless. You know, I look at these things on Europe, and they have public bathrooms. I mean, why can't we have public bathrooms? I just don't understand that. Why we all have to run into Subway? And obviously, Subway isn't going to be very accommodating to somebody who's got a dog and he's got a backpack and he's got a trash bag full of cans, right? Understandable. They are running a business, right? So I parked about a mile away and I hiked in, and the Gloria Molina Park where they held the event, it's just an ugly effing park. Right? I mean, it's got a couple trees, it's got a couple things, but it's in downtown LA. And the reason they pick it is because they can set up a very efficient security perimeter. The police, the highway patrol, security, they can cordon off the streets very easily, and they have easy access for the speakers from the federal building. I get it. But man, it's just an ugly park. But I headed in and I saw the Superior Court where OJ was freed, and I saw the jail where OJ stayed for a long time. Not long enough in my book, but hey, what are you going to do? And there was such a sense of community, and it was funny. So I stopped at all the booths. You know, like they had a booth for UCLA admin. They're like, oh, we protect free speech, and what they're alluding to is the University of Columbia and Brown University being told by the federal government if they didn't curtail free speech on their campuses that they would lose $400-500 million in federal funds. And they capitulated. They did, right? And so I'm talking to these people who work at UCLA, I would assume in academia. And they were like, we wouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, how do you know? You're not the president. You're the decisions that the people who make those decisions aren't out here on a corner in downtown LA on a Saturday at the Bernie rally. They're in Westwood, they're in Bel Air, they're in Malibu, drinking Chardonnay, drinking champagne cocktails, mimosas, whatever you're talking about, and they're going to figure it out later. Because it's easy to say $400 million doesn't matter when it isn't your $400 million. But I applaud them. I told him, I hope that that's not the case with UCLA. I hope this isn't a collateral thing. It's a domino thing where the Trump administration starts to do this to all these different schools and academia. We will find out, right? I don't know how it's all going to transpire, but I always like learning people's other opinions. Like I've said before, most of my friends are on the right, and they are as good a people as I've ever met, right? I mean, I'm lucky. Bill, Eric, Doug, Scott, my parents, sometimes. They're really good people. We just seem to look at the prism a lot different, right? And I used to get a lot more upset about the differences. And when I talk to Brother Bill, he's always like, Johnny, keep your voice down. Keep your voice down. Oh, thank God he walks me off the ledge because I don't want to lose the friendship, but. And so I was out there and I don't smoke weed, but man, that stuff smells good. It's kind of like coffee. I go with super producer Stacy to Starbucks, and she drinks a coffee or some exotic drink. Okay, I don't know. She's cool. She's drinking the hip stuff, right? I want a frizzle with a double frizzle and then upside down on a macchiato, and I'm like, Jesus, I didn't know there was that much stuff you could put into a drink, but okay. But when I go there, I love the smell of coffee. I love it. I don't drink it. Literally, like I'll have 1 cup of coffee every 3 years, if that, right? And it's the same thing with weed. I don't smoke it, but man, that stuff smells good. I can understand how people can kind of really just jump on that train. I'm not promoting it. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not pimping for it, right? This isn't the Masters on CBS. I ain't telling you something, is good for you when really maybe it's not. But, I went there and I saw the Palestinian people, and it's funny. I started questioning them, start busting some balls over there. I'm like, yeah, hey, any of you guys vote for Trump? Nobody voted for Trump. Kind of like Dearborn, Michigan, right? Nobody voted for him. Yeah, right. Got 52% of the vote in Dearborn, Michigan, the highest population base of Palestinians in the United States. Yeah, nobody. Now, 3 months later, I didn't vote for the guy. No, I was really against him. Yeah, sure, buddy. And, I saw probably 100 Palestinian protesters, and I empathize with them. I think they're on the right side. I think, what's happening to them is genocide. And I do think that Israel is not conducting the war in a humane way. And the problem is when you don't conduct a war in a humane way, then you cannot expect anything for your soldiers, your servicemen, your servicewomen on the other side, right? You don't want them to get treated like John McCain, right? And so, we had some discussions, and then it's amazing how many progressive causes are under the Democratic envelope. I saw the Palestinians, they're talking about the oligarchies, they're talking about the billionaires, and LGBTQ, and, I was over there, and people are scared. People are worried. Look, I understand that. It's legitimate, and we don't know what the future holds, right? But I will tell you, and I've noticed this in the last 3 events. I went to Tesla a couple weeks ago. I went to the march last weekend in Claremont, and then this week. But I noticed a lot of people wearing masks, the COVID mask. And I actually asked 2 people, why are you wearing the mask? Is it, you're worried about the germs? And they said, no, we just don't want to be identified. We think that Big Brother is watching us, and we don't want that. And I talked to 2 ladies and they had masks. They had the full bandana, right? And like they were going to, commit a high stakes robbery. And I said, "Are you really worried?" And they said, "Yeah, we're really worried that we are going to suffer repercussions." And they asked, I told them, I'm doing a little podcast, didn't even tell them where it was. Nobody's finding it. It's so small right now. In 2 years, when we're the biggest podcast in the world, though, they'll come running. And they said, "Are you scared?" I said, "No, let's go." I hope I get on somebody's radar. I hope I poke the bear enough that they want to come after me. Go ahead. Let's go. Let's get in the ring, man. Because this is what we believe. I'm not just giving you word salad here. I really believe this. And most of the people who are kind enough to subscribe to this and write comments in are believers too. We're all in this together. And it's like I say at the end of every show, I love you all. We're on the side of right. I know we are. I feel it more and more every day when we see what we consider reprehensible actions by this administration. Okay? Maybe sometime we get a little over dramatic, but I don't know. I don't care. I'd rather be over dramatic, Because let me tell you something. Do you remember Schindler's List? When they were on the train going to Auschwitz and they were saying, "Wow, I heard they killed Jews there." And the other people are like, "No, they can't kill Jews. That's just crazy talk." Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, And then we had Trump literally last week saying, the Germans treated those Jews pretty well. Some of them even gave them extra rations of food. Like, well, okay. Let's move on. When you say, it's kind of like back in the day, Pat Riley, the legendary basketball coach, took over the New York Knicks, and his modus operandi was, we're going to foul on every play. They can't call every foul. And I think the Trump administration has picked up quite a bit of that in terms of, we're just going to say 20 crazy things every goddamn day, and you can't just pick on every one. It's just we flood the market. Damn it, I miss Biden. I miss that guy more and more every day. What are you going to do? All right, we're off and running. The Bernie rally was spectacular. Heard Neil Young, heard Joan Baez. God, I can't believe that beautiful lady is still around. Bernie, AOC. It is amazing. On their weekends off, they travel to the West Coast to rally the base. Where is everybody else? Do I see Chuck Schumer? Nope. I see Chris Murphy? Nope. Dick Durbin? Nope. Some of the people who voted to keep the reconciliation going so we could keep the government open. Yeah. 8 Democrats, joined in with the Republicans. That was cute. Rand Paul was the Republican against it. That's how they got just to 60. God, Rand Paul. How crazy is this surreal cosplay world where I'm like applauding Rand Paul? Signs and wonders. All right. Biggest story is, I'm going to go back in the time capsule here. And this is in 2018. This is June of 2018. I know. I'm bringing back past trauma, okay? Just be gentle with me, okay? I'm not trying to get you to see a therapist. I'm not trying to get you to psychoanalyze yourself, but we got to go back to understand how much we've overcome, probably. But 4 months after the Super Bowl, Donald Trump continued back then. This is the Colin Kaepernick thing, where players in the NFL were taking knees, where NBA players during the playoffs were doing different symbols for the George Floyd thing. for Black Lives Matter, right? Nothing violent, just political protest in a peaceful, sane way. Donald Trump continued to rebuke NFL players for their pregame protest, NBA, NFL, continuing his culture war over players standing for the national anthem, right? He asked about the matter morning during impromptu, suggesting the highly compensated athletes should stand during the national anthem and stick to sports inside their venues. So he continued. He goes, I think it's great. I love athletics. I love sports, but they shouldn't get politics involved. All right, Mr. President, that's what you think. Now let's fast forward. You know, the special effects are just part of the package here. When you like and subscribe, you get the whole thing. I can't wait till we can get a bonus show, okay? I'm just waiting, all right? Did I just hear you laugh? Okay. All right. So Saturday night, UFC 314, Miami, Florida, Australian Alexander Volkanovski took on Diego Lopez of Brazil. Now, first of all, and President Trump showed up. First of all, couldn't we get some Americans in the ring? I thought all the foreigners were bad. I thought we just put levies and tariffs on Australia and Brazil because they were bad actors. They were ripping us off. Why is the president at a UFC event that the headliners aren't American? I mean, I'm serious here. But if you watched it, it was literally a tribute to Donald Trump, right? He got to sit next to the octagon, right? Stephen Chung, his spokesman, said he'll be sitting cage side like he always does. Like he always does. Well, he did right after the election in November in Madison Square Garden. And the crowd will erupt. Yeah. That's how we start the revolution. In applause as he makes his signature walkout. So not just the fighters do a walkout, he does. Now my question is, I thought we weren't supposed to involve sports and politics. Hello? Hold on, let me call the White House. Excuse me, Carolyn Levitt. I thought the president said politics and sports shouldn't be intertwined with each other. What? Oh, okay. You're at the bar at Trump Tower drinking. Okay. Can't answer me right now. All right, we'll get back to you on Monday. Hello? What the Christ's sake is that? You know, and I understand, this is where I don't think the Republicans really understand our frustration on the progressive side, is because they do two things so different. Literally, one hand doesn't know what the other is doing. They literally talk out both sides of their mouth. Are we going to see a protest in the NFL? Probably not. NBA is a lot more politically aligned than the NFL ever will be. But Colin Kaepernick took the knee, and he hasn't had a job since. Okay? Don't tell me that guy ain't been blackballed, because that guy's been blackballed. Straight up. Just a bunch of bullshit. That's what I think. Okay? Nobody cares about the guy. All right, cool. Don't worry about it. Don't get involved with politics if you're in sports. But if the president wants to get involved in sports, he's been to the Super Bowl. He's been to Daytona 500. He's been to the NCAA wrestling championships. Male-dominated sports. Wow. Wonder if there's a theme there. Let me call Carolyn Levitt. Oh, still drinking in the bar? Okay, honey. Don't you worry about it, you little DEI hire. Yeah. All right. Final story of the night. A little glimmer of good news here. The Justice Department said in a filing on Saturday that Kilmar Garcia, the Maryland father who was mistakenly deported, administrative error, the Trump administration says, is alive and remains in an El Salvador mega prison. Now, this is because the Judge Nintz, the federal judge, told them she wanted to know where this gentleman was. And the Trump administration on Friday said, we don't know. We have no clue. Even though in Kristi Noem's cosplay photo shoot in the prison, we could see him there. Don't know where he is. It's not like we're looking for goddamn D.B. Cooper, right? The guy's in the background. Okay? We'll call him Immigrant Ken. Let's call him Immigrant Ken, okay? As Fashion Barbie does her little cosplay photo shoot, right? You know, don't worry about the dead dog in the side. Kristi does that before every photo shoot, I'm sure. Who cares about animals, right, Kristi? Yeah. So, in the court filing by the DOJ, it is my understanding, based on official reporting from our embassy, don't have to look at the pictures, I guess, in San Salvador, that Garcia is currently being held in the Terrorism Confinement Center in El Salvador. He is alive and secure in that facility. Wow. Now, this is a step forward for the Trump administration. At least they are responding to the judge's request. Now the question is, when is this gentleman going to be brought back to the United States? He has been in that prison for almost a month. He was deported March 15th, or almost to tax day. Yeah. All right. That's it for today. If you got a chance out there to go see Bernie and AOC, please do. They're going to be in Bakersfield and Folsom, California on Tuesday, tax day. How ironic. And I keep thinking I might go up to Bakersfield, but I don't know. You know, hopes and prayers. We'll see, right? I mean, if there's anybody out there who wants to give me access to a private jet for the 2.5-hour ride, I would gladly take you up on it. All right. Thank you, one. Thank you all. And I just want to tell you, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. We're in this together. I love you all. We're going to win. We're on the side of right. We're on the side of good. And as Bernie and AOC both said today, keep fighting. We're going to win. This is our fight. We're on the good side. All right. I will hit the like and subscribe, leave some comments, and I will see you soon.